says Bolton was not detained and has not been charged with any crimes, adding the searches are part of an investigation into the handling of classified information.
That is correspondent Mike Kempen. Authorities say an apparent accident involving exposure to a gas at a dairy in Colorado has killed 6 people. First responders found the bodies in a confined space at Prospect Dairy on Wednesday. The dairy located about 35 miles northeast of Denver. No names released. As Hurricane Aaron moves out to sea, forecasters are keeping watch on 3 other areas of disturbed weather in the Atlantic, including one that could become Tropical Storm Fernand. That could happen over the next few days. Fortunately, none of these systems appear likely to directly affect the United States. Former California Congressman John Campbell says Democrats are getting quite creative as they seek to redraw the congressional voting map. Bob Agnew with a report.
As a former California lawmaker, Campbell is taking a keen interest in the issue.
I have looked at the districts.
He says the most creative change involves a voting district held by a Republican near the California-Oregon border.
That is very red country. That is conservative country.
The new map would stretch a slim finger from that district hundreds of miles south into San Francisco.
You take some of those Democrats from the Bay Area and run them up in there in order to dilute the Republican control of that district.
Congressman Campbell was interviewed by the Salem Radio Network. Bob Agnew reporting.
More on these stories at townhall.com.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-583-0141. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-583-0141. That's 800-583-0141. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
A Ukrainian man is arrested in Italy in connection with an attack that damaged the Nord Stream pipeline.
Officials have confirmed the arrest of a man suspected to be one of the coordinators of the 2022 undersea explosions that damaged the Nord Stream gas pipelines between Russia and Germany. The Ukrainian man was found after Italian authorities were alerted to his possible presence in the country. Officers raided a bungalow where the suspect was staying with his family for a few days. Police said he surrendered without resistance. The man was detained on a European arrest warrant that was issued Monday by German authorities. I'm Karen Chamas.
The German economy shrank by 0.3% in the second quarter compared with the previous 3-month period. That was a significantly worse showing than was initially reported for Europe's biggest economy. That decline followed growth of 0.3% in the first quarter. Breaking news and analysis at townhall.com. Alaska medical professionals who provide sex change operations for children could risk disciplinary action under a proposal set for review by the state medical board. The proposal would deem any professional who uses hormonal or surgical treatments for minors as being grossly negligent and subject to sanctions by the board. Pro football officials aren't taking any chances.
The NFL increasing security at its offices following that shooting last month by a gunman who reportedly was targeting league headquarters in a Manhattan high-rise. Now, the league previously recommended enhanced security measures at both team and league facilities. They'll be reviewed at a special meeting next week. NFL employees are back in the office after working remotely in the weeks following the shooting that killed 4 people and wounded 1 league employee. Jason Walker reporting.
More on these stories at townhall.com. I'm John Scott.
The following is an America Matters Media production. The views expressed do not necessarily represent those of the station or its advertisers, although we think they should. But that's the opinion of America Matters Media.
Vote for me, oh, such a breeze. It's just another word for nothing. Over me. All right, folks, you certainly know what that theme song means by now. That's right. It's time for another episode of America Matters. I'm your host, Leo Zacky. And joining me today, I've got the brilliant Max Bonilla, and I can't wait to talk with him about what's going on here in California. But before we jump into any of that, I want to give a big shout out, hello, welcome, and thank you to everybody out there who's tuning in, especially the folks there on 93.7 KPGF, as well as AM 1060. And I want to make sure that everybody out there listening on the Answer Network, Radio for America, the Salem Network, the Kevin Jackson Network, and AUN Television, welcome to America Matters. And a big thank you to all the folks at those stations and networks that help get this broadcast out there to all of you so we can share real information, things that the media won't necessarily touch, and with great, great guests like Max Bonilla, Babyface Boomer. Welcome to America Matters, my friend. Glad to have you with us.
Thanks for having me on, Leo. It's always a great honor.
Dude, you have been so on top of everything going on in California. There was a big rally up there just the other day where they're actively speaking out against the gerrymandering. And there's a lot of crazy bills being passed right now, or trying to be passed, that have gone through the assembly in some cases here in California, like AB 495. We're going to talk about all these today, but you were just up there. You got to speak to everybody. And what was it like? What was the crowds? Obviously the crowd's there because they're upset with what the government's doing. No surprise there. But do you feel that your words maybe fell on deaf ears when it comes to the legislature?
100%. There are about 6,000 or 7,000 people there, and a lot of the people there were very aware of the redistricting, and we went in and opposed the redistricting. And of course, even with the majority in opposition, they're still going to pass it through.
Of course they are, because they're not serving the interests of the people. They're serving the interests of the party. It's the hive mind sort of concept. They all just fall in line, do as they're told, because, well, I don't think they'd be able to be employed anywhere else doing anything, if you ask me.
Right. So, right. They don't have any skills to offer anybody.
Right. So they've managed to con their way into positions of power because they are con artists. And here they are just doing what they're told by the people that control them financially, that help put them in those positions of power because they were good lapdogs and do as they're told. And, we're being negatively impacted here. And the whole issue with this gerrymandering thing is that we, the people, didn't ask for this. This was put upon us by the people in power because there's this war against Republicans from Democrats, and we have a supermajority here, and it's all about keeping power in perpetuity, and that's always been the problem, and they're not serving the interests of the people. They're not setting it up for accurate and fair representation. They're doing it to position their party to have more power.
Of course, that's what they always do. And regardless of whether or not Texas was going to move forward with this, they were always going to go forward with this. Not necessarily because they need to cheat to win the midterm, so to speak, but because they are just cheaters by nature, these people. They grew up in an environment where they were groomed to be put in their positions. Governor Newsom's dad helped the Gettys when he was a lawyer for them. And so, of course, the Gettys, who practically run California, are going to put him in a position where he can be governor. And undoubtedly, he's probably being groomed to be president. He'll be like another Ronald Reagan that they'll push. There's this sort of realignment that's going on towards democratic populism.
Well, I think a lot of it's just in response to this anti-Trumpism. And that's all it is. And no, you're 100% right about the Gettys, their tight relationship. Don't forget, their close relationship with the Browns, and obviously Nancy Pelosi there. So, there is this whole consortium, whatever, of people that have been in these positions of affluence and power and influence. And they're the ones that are really calling the shots here in California. And like you mentioned, like irregardless, whether Texas was to move forward with their redistricting plan, we had things in place in our Constitution that would prevent that, but they were just going to just barrel through it and disregard what is written down in our laws and our state constitution. So they're lawbreakers, they're cheaters, they're crooks.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what's going on here. I don't think it's just a response to Texas. I don't even think it's because Gavin Newsom is scared of losing the midterms. I just think he doesn't like some of the Republican congressmen that are in office because they're challenging him on a lot of stuff. Like, I think he definitely has some sort of, I don't know what other word to use than grudge, like against Kevin Kiley and against Doug LaMalfa and against a few of the other representatives, because they're constantly calling him out, trying to hold him accountable at the federal level as much as possible.
Well, that's where he's getting the most pushback, especially because, well, he's ran the state into the ground and he needs federal funds to help, bail him out because I mean, it's that simple. And when he has critics like that blocking his federal funding and making him look like the idiot that he is, yeah, of course, they're going to be considered enemies in his eyes.
Right. And, honestly, it's not just LaMalfa and Kiley. I mean, I would think Darrell Issa and a few others down south are not impressing Newsom either, because Darrell Issa has been on top of his case as well with what's going on at the border and the southern end of California communities.
Right. But that's the thing. It's amazing how, they're supposed to represent the people and do right by the people, but it seems to be this just infight amongst, people of influence that have power. And it's what's happening to we the people. We're getting screwed. We're being left by the wayside. And it's very plain to see. So I want to talk more about that when we get back from this first break here. Max Bonilla, I'm so glad you're with us. Tell everybody real quick how they can find you on social media.
Babyface Boomer on every platform.
There it is. Follow him there. He's got great content. This is America Matters. I'm Leo Zacky with Max Bonilla. We'll be right back.
I remember you in the old days, Park Lane Mall, a kiosk. It's a lot different now, isn't it?
Man, that was a long time ago. 1988, we've been blessed that we've been guided, and finally we have bought an amazing building across the street from the convention center. We found a better way to serve you. We call it home. We managed to create amazing energy. And when we say welcome to the family, boy, we really mean it.
It is a family affair.
Absolutely. And we couldn't have done it without our wonderful customers who believed in us for all of 27 years. So I'm here to really say thanks to all of our wonderful family members who we started as customers, who now we know each other's children and grandchildren.
All those years ago, a little kiosk in Park Lane Mall. Park Lane Mall's not there anymore, but you are still here.
Yeah, we have solidified our future by buying this beautiful building on Virginia Street. So we're there to serve you.
Thank you, Victor. Precision Diamonds, your local jeweler across from the convention center.
In Northern Nevada, there's a one-of-a-kind home that provides temporary overnight lodging when veterans or family members are receiving medical care in the Reno area, some from hundreds of miles away. Too often, overnight accommodations are a financial and logistical challenge. Stephanie Tanksley and her husband are veterans who come for treatment from Bishop, California.
We were lucky enough to be connected to the guest house so that I could stay for 10 nights when my husband was in the hospital. So I was able to visit him every day. It was just a blessing.
Veterans Guest House is privately supported by individual and community donations from people like you who recognize our responsibility to support our heroes. And no government money is received for day-to-day operation of the house.
Please support this organization. The Veterans Guest House is an amazing resource for veterans. Supporting this organization is one of the best ways that you can donate your time and your money just to help our veterans and their families.
Find out how you can help at veteransguesthouse.org.
To join the conversation, call 844-790-TALK. That's 844-790-8255. Now back to the show.
All right, folks, we're back with America Matters. I'm Leo Zacky, and joining me is Babyface Boomer, Max Bonilla. He's the leading, in my opinion, California legislative expert. He's active, he's vocal, and he's letting you guys know. So make sure you follow him on the social media platforms. I follow him on X and on Instagram. Follow him there for sure. If there's any other places you want people to follow you, Max, like TikTok, let the people know. We want you guys to follow him because he's always putting out great information. So if you want to stay abreast of the situation and know what's going on in California and the insanity, but have the real facts to back it up, you need to follow him. So we were just talking about how the people in power, are just not focusing on we the people. It's this really crappy sitcom that we're watching where they're just fighting and having drama amongst themselves.
Right. So it's interesting that you say sitcom because when I went up to give my testimony, I introduced myself with good evening instead of good afternoon. That was funny. I pulled a little bite in there without even realizing it because it was like 12 or 1 o'clock or something like that around that time. And so, or it may have even been 11:30, so I may have even needed to say good morning instead of that. So I could have been way off. If they were going to critique me for that, I would have said, "Well, look at who you installed as president like 4 years ago. You can't really talk, can you?"
Yeah, and the things that they focus on, it's like the unimportant details that they would fixate on as opposed to the actual meat and potatoes.
Right, as opposed to what I actually said, because, Gavin Newsom, who is tweeting at everybody, you can see that he's pulling like a Donald Trump, and now he's trying to just like ad hominem everybody and everything. If he would have said something about it, because he does critique some of my stuff, his press office is constantly tweeting my stuff, and they'll tweet other people. If they were to critique that, I would say, unlike Gavin Newsom, a lizard serpent demon, I'm a human, so I make human mistakes. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
Hey, he definitely is, and he just embodies the figure of a used car salesman.
Right.
Speaking of responses, I've seen some things coming out of I don't know if this is true or not, but I've seen some posts of the Gavin Newsom press officer where they're like literally just dropping F-bombs and just screw you and stuff like that. Are these real?
Yeah. Oh, no, those tweets are real. They kind of puzzled me when I looked at them, and I was like, well, we have to have some form of professionalism here. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't think that Donald Trump should be cursing either. I don't think if you're president or vice president or you're in a high political office of some sort, you should be cursing too much. I'm just not that kind of guy. I mean, maybe you have different feelings about that, but me,
I
I'm
grew
just
up
like,
a chicken
I
farmer
avoid it.
with World War II and Korean veterans, so. But I know, I know when to turn it on and to turn it off. I know when it's appropriate, when it's not appropriate. Like this hour here on radio monitored by the FCC.
Right.
but this is what they're actually putting out. Like there was who was it? It was the CEO of what was the company, and they're just like, "F you, see ya."
Yeah, the CEO of Bed Bath & Beyond.
That's right, Bed
I've
Bath &
been to
Beyond.
those stores before. There's one off of Fulton Avenue, Marconi, like right in my corner here. If you're in Sacramento, you probably know where that is. If you're not, you probably don't. But I've been in there quite a bit. They have a lot of good products. I'm just kind of sad to see that they're moving on and closing down. I used to like walking around in that store and looking at the appliances and the towels and the bed frames and all kinds of stuff. I mean,
it's the ultimate. Like, you want to get your house set up. Like, I'm sorry, Target, but Bed Bath & Beyond is the way. And it's great because, when you're moving, like, especially because I remember when I was moving out to college, like, it was your one-stop shop for everything. Because, like, all of a sudden you go from having, like, your room at your parents' house to, like, all right, you're on your own. Like, you need bed sheets and comforters and pillows and towels and, all these little tchotchkes and things that you wouldn't normally think of, having. And they had everything there. It's a great store, but they've been hurting financially for years, and they've been closing down. But when you add California's poor policies on top of that, and the ability for people to just go in and commit rampant theft, they have no business doing business in this state. And they have to make that executive decision from an economic and business standpoint, where they're getting just raked over the coals by California. And if they just don't operate here, they don't take those significant net losses, and they can be a a functioning solvent business.
Right. Yeah, and that's what Gavin Newsom doesn't understand is with the regulations that they have to deal with, it's hard for them to be solvent. They have to follow through on a lot of different state laws, and it just gets, I think, more difficult by the year to keep up with minimum wage, with inflation, with a lot of the other factors that are at play. And a lot of people in my generation, they don't really understand how the world works. They're wondering why their electricity bills are super high, why their water bills are super high. So you have two different extremes going on. You have the small and medium-sized businesses being oppressed and being forced out of the state. And then you have the large conglomerate monopoly businesses who are being allowed to thrive and just like totally destroy and bulldoze everybody, destroy communities because it benefits the bottom line of the politicians that are currently in office.
Well, right, because those big businesses are the same ones lobbying and funding those campaigns for those people that keep them in a position of advantage in perpetuity.
Yeah.
And like
Right.
you mentioned, the younger generation not getting it, and they're like, you're talking about the water bills and the power bills. Well, according to the left in power, it's global warming, it's climate change. It couldn't be the possible mismanagement or the lack of foresight and being proactive as opposed to reactive leadership when it comes to utilities and resources. And then when you talk about businesses like the medium-sized businesses, well, those are job creators, and those are very important because without having entities like that can provide legitimate gainful employment to people, not only do you lose the tax base from those businesses, but you lose that income ability for those people. And if they wind up on a social program, well, they're actually taking away from the funds that would be available to the state. So, I mean, clearly the people in power don't know their ass from their elbow when it comes to getting things done and how businesses work. And it's detrimental to everybody.
Well, we've got a $21 billion slush fund that PG&E has access to the moment they bulldoze some communities. And that's
Right.
a fund that's being, it's funded by taxpayers. It's not really a state fund. It's not like they came together and did jobs and got the money on their own accord.
Right.
But the important thing to pay attention to is you look at the water and the electricity bills. Why are they so high? Well, that's because you have per municipality, you've got the municipal water system. That's one line of water. They've got no competition. For electricity, you've got like three monopolies that serve very different areas. If they had another company that they had to compete with in each of those areas, they'd be forced to lower their prices because the other company would probably offer lower rates to start with to market to the people to get customers in the door. And so they'd be forced to do that in response. So essentially, if you have two companies constantly responding to each other in market forces instead of just a monopoly, we could do a lot when it comes to water and electricity. But right now we're stuck.
Right, because of the absence of competition. And you mentioned the $21 billion slush fund. I mean, first off, $21 billion represents about 10% of the annual state budget. So that's just one big number you got to understand for everybody out there. Number two, it's how did they get that ability to have access to such a large number? Well, if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure that PG&E has been very heavily lobbying Democrat politicians here in California and supplying lots of capital to their races. I've heard that they gave over $300,000 to was it Gavin Newsom or there was some other.
Yeah. Well, 350,000 to his wife's nonprofit.
Oh wow, one hand washes the other. Well, we didn't. It's not directly; it was for charity. It happens to be run by Gavin Newsom's wife. I mean, don't ignore the coincidences. They're just they're not. It's not conspiratorial. It's just coincidence.
Yeah, when Jesus said, "Don't let your right hand see what your left hand is doing," they probably meant that they should engage in double the corruption. That's probably the way they interpreted that.
I don't think they've ever picked up a Bible. If it did, it would probably burn them.
It would probably hurt their souls. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Just hear
With
that.
all that corruption and crime that they've engaged in.
No, I 100% agree. But that's the thing. It's again, these people have been in these positions of power, and they're not doing things to benefit we the people.
Of course not.
Jobs are leaving, taxes are through the roof, the perpetual state of bogus drought that we existent because there's no incentive to build the infrastructure to harness the water. I love how they're telling us that we're in this state of drought right now, and they're cutting off water from over 4,000 independent farmers. And and I'm a snowboarder, avid snowboarder. You could have gone to Mammoth Mountain this year in California and snowboarded into July. And last year, you could have done it into August. What drought are you talking about? Oh, you mean the artificial man-made one because they're dumping water to the sea and they're blowing up dams on the Klamath River? That one? The one where we have been approved for 50 desalinization plants but are being blocked by environmental, ridiculous nut jobs in the Coastal Commission? This is all artificial.
Welcome to the free state of California, where you can't play in the sand. You can't play at the skate park when there's an epidemic. When you can't surf when there's an epidemic. When you can't shower for more than 5 minutes. Where politicians pretend to care about you, but they really don't. And the thing is, Governor Newsom, he's going to run for president, obviously. One of the ways where he's going to be, I think, smart in marketing himself is he's going to tell the nation, look at how many damn budgets I've balanced. I've been in office for 8 years. I've balanced all these budgets because it's a requirement for the state. Now send me to the federal government where I can solve a deficit issue and I can and of course he's going to be lying, where I can balance the budget just like I did in California. If I can do it for the biggest state in the union, I can do it for the union. And people are going to buy it. They're going to be like, yeah, let's go, Gavin. He's going to balance the budget. He's going to see Donald J. Trump.
Bull spit, bro. We haven't. It's so crazy to me.
Yeah, well, I don't know. That's just an idea that I'm thinking right now. That's one of the ways he's just going to put himself out there is talk about how he dealt with this big deficit. He dealt with that big deficit. Why can't he do it with the federal government? It can't be too much bigger of a task. That's what he'll say.
Well, I want to figure out where the hell we were in debt prior to him coming into office and where we are. And I'm pretty sure we're for sure over 3.5. I think we're 10% at least of the national debt. So we're probably 3.7 trillion minimum.
Yeah, that sounds like an accurate calculation.
Look, we're going to keep railing on Gavin Newsom and hammering these facts and important details home. We got to take our bottom of the hour break here on America Matters. I'm Leo Zacky with babyface boomer Max Bonilla. We'll be right back.
In times of market volatility, it can be a good reminder to revisit your financial strategies to make sure they align with your goals. Call 775-674-2222 or visit nvretirementplanners.com. Advisory services are offered through Nevada Retirement Planners, an investment advisor in the state of Nevada. Any insurance products and services are offered through Nevada Senior Advisors. Nevada Retirement Planners are not affiliated with or endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any government agency. Nevada Retirement Planners does not provide legal or tax advice.
I used to love going for long walks, but my back just doesn't cooperate like it used to.
Same here. But ever since I started a routine with Active Life Integrated Health on Moana Lane, I feel more flexible and in control. You should check them out.
This is Dr. Tom Waldorf. Let's make it happen so you can feel better naturally. To schedule the beginning of your transformation, call 775-842-0065 or visit activelifereno.com online.
Okay, we are running a car drive right now to help veterans all across America. So if you have an old car, truck, or van, even a motorcycle or an RV sitting around, you can right now give it away and help the vets. They really need your help. And your car will help support the vets and their families. And guess what? You even get a tax donation. Plus, we'll even come and pick up your car for free. And all you've got to do is pick up your phone right now and make a free call. Now is the perfect time to do something good for the vets. Give back to the vets right now for all they've done for this country. And your old car can really help them. So call the Veterans Car Donation Program right now for free pickup of your vehicle. Help the vets and help your taxes at the same time. Call right now.
800-296-1259. 800-296-1259. 800-296-1259. That's 800-296-1259.
Want to expand your advertising dollar? Sponsor this or any America Matters program by calling 775-827-8900, extension 2. Now back to the show.
All right, folks, we are back with America Matters. I'm your host, Leo Zacky, and joining me today is babyface boomer Max Bonilla. Make sure to follow him on the social media platforms, X, Instagram, and, of course, TikTok. He's got great information, but we've been breaking down how ridiculous what's going on in California is right now. And one of the things that I really wanted to talk about, because we've been talking about just the ridiculous amounts of debt and the waste that's being it just spent here, and just all the problems we got in California, right? And they all stem from Gavin Newsom and how he's trying to make himself look like I'm the guy who knows how to balance a budget and do things right. Well, he doesn't. He's a liar, and we know that. But, I was just on Adam Carolla's podcast yesterday, and you can check that out on YouTube, and you can also check it out on my Instagram at Leo S. Zacky. And we were talking about the bullet train was one of the questions he asked about. And
Right.
so, Max, I mean, about, obviously there's a huge, giant, just money pit. That's what this has become. I mean, we've spent over $300 billion on this thing.
So right now, we've spent a lot of money. Right now, we're clocking at 100, and then we're gonna probably be spending in upwards of 131 billion.
Okay.
When the initial bond was like around 20 to 30. It was like not even 20 billion. So
Right.
we're spending tons and tons and tons more, or at least projected to do so, even though that's not what originally was planned. What's interesting, though, is that California has some waivers to bypass 49 USC 229.05A, which mandates that if you're going to build high-speed rail in the United States, you have to use domestically produced materials. And so we're using some domestically produced materials, but we're also combining it with some foreign materials, and we've made waivers and so that we can bypass that. But the thing is, really nothing's been built. So whatever the government's approving in terms of doing like a hybrid train it's not even being acted upon right now.
So
what's the point?
Right. I mean, but you're talking about like 51% made in America. It's made in America,
Right. Whereas this law seems to require something a bit more stringent. I would definitely like to look into it more, because if Newsom is in violation of Section 22905A, then that's a big deal.
Yeah, it's just, but the thing is that we were sold this bill of goods. This
Right.
monorail salesman came to town, and everyone was like, "Oh, wonderful! It's going to go from LA to San Francisco. This is going to be great." And then all of a sudden, well, it couldn't quite get up the grapevine, so it couldn't quite go to LA. So you'd have to start it in Bakersfield, and then, well, it couldn't quite get to San Francisco, so it's just going to go to Modesto.
Oh
And
my gosh.
so it just kept getting shorter and shorter after it was approved and the funds have been allocated. And then a few years ago, they couldn't account for $300 million. They're just like, I don't know where it went.
Well, I've got an article. I know a guy who works in the rail line business, and essentially he's helped lay down track and whatnot. He gave me an article about this high-speed rail. He was one of the dudes kind of shouting it down from the beginning, saying that it was unviable. Remind me to actually read that article, because I want to provide you guys with the info from that. I got handed that on Tuesday when I was down in Napa. But no, this project has not been feasible since the beginning. And you could do it, of course, with the right people, but the way that it's being proposed, the way that they're intending to build it, the way that they're intending to circumvent the laws, the way that they're intending to actually sneak money behind doors, that's just not going to work for the people of California. That's what's been going on. It's a big, giant money laundry operation.
That's exactly what I told Adam Carolla the other day. But here's the real kicker. It's government funded. You know what really works? Private enterprise, just like the Bright Line. Like they're building a Bright Line train from LA to Vegas.
And I'm willing to bet that these other parts that we're getting, they're not just coming from anywhere. My guess would be that they're coming from China. I would definitely love to look into that and verify that. I know that China has a big stake in some of the things that California does, but we need to be getting our steel and our iron from the United States according to the United States Code. So if we're not, that'll be a big bombshell that I'll have to come out with. And Trump has said he's not going to give them funding from the federal government. That's $4 billion for the project that's going away entirely. And I think they're getting what they deserve. What progress have they shown or demonstrated up to this point?
Couple of concrete overpasses.
Man, that's great. A lot of work.
Yeah, right. But how long has this project been going on? 20 years, right?
Well, I'm hoping that the IRS is at least taxing the crap out of the construction workers and who are getting paid, beautifully. I'm sure they get one big, beautiful paycheck every couple weeks, and we need to have the IRS come in and take like over half of that because they're already doing that with everybody else. So no exceptions if you're under the table of a politician and you're eating breadcrumbs.
Right. I mean, I really am curious. I would love to know if Lainey Koulianakis, the lieutenant governor, her father's construction company, has anything to do with these projects. And I don't know for certain, but I would not be surprised if he does.
You guys are giving me a bunch of like rabbit holes to go down, which is great because all this does is it helps me make new content. And so this is what we need to tell the people right now is that there's a set of standards in the federal law for building high-speed rail. That's 49 USC 26106, and that lays out the application requirements. So I'm going to actually be curious as to whether we've met the application requirements, given the fact that we haven't met the deadlines that we have set for ourselves.
Well, you know how the people in charge love to just plow through whatever rules already exist to get whatever they want done.
Well, the rules and the bureaucracy and the red tape is always for everybody else but them.
Of course, I'm sure Plumpjack has no shortage of water right now.
No, probably not. And they have no shortage of, maybe they do have a shortage, I don't know, of busboys who want to work for $16 an hour.
Oh, yeah, well,
there's your living
wage. Bread. Well, look, as long as you're a bakery, right? As long as you have a bakery there, then you don't have to abide by the fast food wages, which are $22 an hour. Oh, wait, Panera Bread, you have a bakery. You don't have to abide by that. Oh, thank you for your contribution to the Gavin Newsom campaign, my good friend.
Yeah, Gavin Newsom looked at that dude straight in the face and he said, thank you for your one big, beautiful contribution.
There you go. I mean, but that's the thing. There's got to be a way that we can stop this kind of nonsense because it's such an abuse. I mean, and as a business, they can just dump whatever amount of money they want into that campaign.
I don't know. I mean, what can I say? These politicians' friends are heathens that go to the what's it called, the Bohemian Grove. Anyways, I mean,
that's right. But that's the thing, though. But when you bring up things like Bohemian Grove, right? It's not some fanciful conspiracy theory of no facts, no evidence, no basis, nothing to stand on. It's 100% real and documented, and it's been exposed. And 20 plus years ago, Alex Jones went into Bohemian Grove and recorded all the weird things that are going on there and talks about that. And you can check out his documentary on that. That he has on Infowars.com. You can check that stuff out. And I recommend buying it, support the Infowar. But aside from that, we know that they go and hang out there.
Well, here it is. United States Code right here talks about how the applications that they submit for high-speed rail need to include basically the financial participation in the project's financing, like who's behind it, donated property interests or services, financial contributions by different commensurates, essentially, or people who are involved in intercity passenger, carriers and things like that, and also financial commitments from non-federal governmental entities. So basically, in order to get it through, they need to know what business interests are involved. And I'd be very curious to know what was presented and who actually approved it at the time that it was presented.
No, I agree. And we just have to do that research and expose it. But that's really the thing. It's the sunlight that you bring to these things and make the transparency that we should already have easily for anybody to access available. And that's the thing. But they don't want the transparency because we know it's very apparent that they're up to no good. They're enriching themselves. They're enriching their friends. There's obviously money being transacted in one way or another behind the scenes. But that's the thing. I also talked about this with Adam Carolla, is that they're just constantly cycling money, whether it's through an account or some business or whatever. They're finding ways to steal the money that we, the people, pay into the government through taxes and line their own pockets. And they continue to, put on this facade that they're this wonderful person doing these wonderful things, fighting against evil Donald Trump, and the evil mega corporations and all these, and the unfair practices. And they make up these whole fabricated stories to keep themselves in power because they're all con artists. And that's the full circle of it all, isn't it?
Right. You have, the Fair Political Practices Commission. I call it UFPCC, the Unfair Political Practices Commission, because the rules are applying to everybody but the politicians. I don't see what sorts of rules they're following. I look at them and I think that there's a lot of things they could definitely go to jail for, but they're being made immune from a lot of the laws that they're breaking just by being in office. So they're angry and they're looking at Trump. They're like, well, presidential immunity, this is what he gets, presidential immunity. And I'm thinking, yeah, he gets presidential immunity just as much as you get state legislature immunity, or as Governor Newsom gets governor's immunity, or as city council people get city council immunity. And I can't tell you the kinds of fraud that I've seen even at the county level with people getting back to me, even Randy Economy, talking about how they've taken money from projects and stuff like that. Guys taking millions of dollars they have to pay back.
It's do they ever pay it back? No.
Maybe on the surface they do.
I'm sure there's a way to cook the books to make it look that way. Look, but that's the thing. They can cook the books and do that stuff.
Well, there's a game called Mafia, and it's a great game that kids love to play. And you've got the mafioso, you've got the Godfather, typical characters, and then you've got one other accomplice, and they could be a number of different roles. In some cases, they could be the janitor. They could be the evil janitor that cleans up all the evidence after a murder, or I guess they could be the evil financial auditor who covers up all the financial crimes of the mafia. And I guess in this case, we have a financial auditor that works directly with the godfathers and mafiosos of politics.
And they're all there in Sacramento. But they're everywhere in this country, unfortunately. And it's something that we, the people, have to take an active role in defeating. And that comes from getting informed about your candidates, going to the polls.
You want to be really good. You want to be really good at mafia. Just be installed as a politician in California, or be installed as a politician in the federal government.
We'll talk a little bit more about installed people too when we get back from this last break. Of America Matters. I'm Leo Zacky with babyface boomer Max Bonilla. We'll be right back.
Security. I'm here to warn you about telephone scammers pretending to be government employees. Some of these scammers may say threatening things like you will be arrested if you don't make payments or provide personal information. Do not fall for these tricks. These calls are not from us. Real Social Security employees will never threaten you for information or money. If you receive a call like this, hang up. Never give the caller your personal information, like your Social Security number or bank account, or send money in any form, cash, gift cards, wire transfers, or prepaid debit cards. Report the call to our law enforcement arm, the Office of the Inspector General, at oig.ssa.gov. Share this information with your friends and family.
The Delta and Bonanza Saloons in Virginia City are simply elegant. Imagine ascending the grand staircase and being surrounded by the Victorian elegance and grandeur of the historic banquet rooms. Original crystal chandeliers, mahogany bars, and oak dance floors highlight the eloquently appointed spaces. A truly romantic and unique setting for your wedding, banquets, or holiday parties. Detailed ceremony and menu planning ensures your special event is a memorable occasion. With just one call to Jesse at 775-847-0789, all of your arrangements will be handled by by their experienced staff with your every expectation in mind, including cakes, flowers, photography, videography, music, and party amenities. Complete ceremony and reception packages are available, as well as their famous themed weddings. Since 1865, the Delta and Bonanza Saloon's guests have come from every state in the union. Now it's your turn. No event is too large or too small. Let the Delta and Bonanza Saloons plan your next incredible event. Call Jesse at 775-847-0789.
Unable to listen to the whole show? A recording of today's program will be available later today. Visit americamatters.us and click on the podcast link. Now back to the show.
All right, folks, we're back with America Matters. I'm Leo Zacky with Max Bonilla, the babyface boomer. Make sure you follow him on social media. He's always putting out good content. I can't stress that enough. Max is on top of the stuff, always just hammering home what's really going on in legislature, especially here in California. And, speaking of the legislature and the nonsense going on here in California, I mean, Max, there's a whole bunch of bills that are going through Assembly and the Senate right now that are just make you go, what the?
Yeah, well, they were trying to put in a whole new affidavit system to allow a non-relative of a child to take essentially a control of them for a select period of time without parental consent.
It's illegal kidnapping.
School decisions or medical-based decisions, legal kidnapping. I could kidnap the kid and give him a beautiful Pfizer vaccine or whatever I wanted to do.
Or sign them up for gender-affirming care.
Or sign them up for SPED, special education, or like you said, gender-affirming care. I said, why can't we take Gavin Newsom's kids? Why can't we take these people's kids who are trying to pass this bill? I'd probably take better care of them anyways, so let's put that out there.
Right.
Probably doesn't let his kids eat at the French Laundry. I would pay for them to eat at the French Laundry. I think it'd be a beautiful event. And I would say, well, I have affidavit control powers over them. And not only do I have affidavit control powers over them, but they actually want to stay with me because I'm fun and entertaining and I don't have a political agenda. So let's just have a good time, man.
There you go. You just, that would be actually funny if that actually does wind up going through, and it's just and doing stuff like that. But that's the thing. You got to have people that got the stones to go and carry something out like that.
Well, they put it on suspense, so thank you, God. I'm so glad they did that.
It's so ridiculous that anybody could just show up at a school and be like, oh yeah, I'm taking little Johnny out, and be like, well, what's your relationship? Well, I can give you my social security number or like just something loose like that. Or there was some other like loose form of documentation that you could provide and then say, oh yeah, like I'm his mentor, I'm his life coach, I'm his soccer coach, I'm his crochet instructor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I could say that I could DM one of them and say, look, I'm their friend over the internet. I mean,
is that good enough? Probably.
That's how big the loophole really goes.
But it's all about protecting illegal immigrants, right? That's why we need laws to protect non-citizens, right? Because it's about keeping those families together, right? Isn't that the whole left dogma behind the reasoning for this? The need for this is AB 495. Correct me if
that's what they say. Yeah,
but this is why are we worried about legislature protecting people that aren't citizens of this country? Why is that taking up our legislative time? Why is that so just an imperative of the people that are here that are elected by the citizens that are here to represent the citizens? Why is this even coming up?
Well, it's probably a combination of things, and one of the big things is they get new voters.
Oh, it's the perpetuation of keeping them in power. Oh, it's the same old thing we've been talking about the entire time you've been on with us today, Max.
Mm-hmm.
It's about how they can stay in power indefinitely, because then they can turn around and take advantage of all the ways they can siphon our tax dollars into their own pockets, one way or the other, whether it's through, blank checks for homeless and, building the Bullet Train to Nowhere project, and that just going on indefinitely. There's always and like you mentioned earlier, there's ways that they can borrow money. You said as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, allegedly they can take, federal government, they can take some of the federal government loans to be able to go to school. And I say allegedly because, well, the current state law allows them to get in-state tuition. So I would assume that they're getting some of the benefits with FAFSA and financial aid. We have this whole even argument over what's going on with policing. I just remember that some Republican proposed a bill in Congress last session that was supposed to set forth a variety of measures focusing on policing within Washington, D.C., including measures that prohibited the use of certain neck restraints by law enforcement officers and basically this was enacted by the District of Columbia, by the way, but this law that I'm talking about would have nullified that act, and Biden ended up vetoing it. I don't know what the contents were, but that's kind of an interesting thing. And then now to see that since the policing hasn't been as stringent as it needs to be, that there's all this crime proliferating within the area. And like I said, I do blame Biden partially because he didn't intervene when he could have.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, the lack of intervention is basically saying that you are approving of it.
Right. Exactly.
But we're seeing that with Gavin Newsom on some of these bills too. The fact that he's not standing up against them is basically him, saying that he sides with it. Correct.
Correct.
Right. He's doing that with this 495 one, right?
Right.
What are some of the other ludicrous bills right now? Like I've heard of, what is it, SB 79 or 727 rather?
Yeah, well, 727 allows kids this access to a private 24/7 chat with God knows who. Maybe groomers or people who are equally as suicidal are going to tell them to commit suicide or off themselves. And yeah, good luck with that, California state legislature. Look at what you're doing to the kids, corrupting them. But the good news is that just like 495, this has currently been put on suspense. So I'm actually happy about that. That means that they can still revive it next year, and they'll probably try to do that. Yeah.
Right. But the thing is that people have stood up and made noise, and that forced them to have to table it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the whole thing. It's about
Absolutely.
It's about an informed populace that gets active and shows up to the Capitol and makes a big scene, because all of a sudden the sick, twisted things they're doing behind the scene are now being exposed, and they're like, "Oh crap, we can't get away with this. How do we?" And they just, obviously they just push it off to the side, and then they allow for some more insanity to distract people because, unfortunately, it's everybody's on such a short, they just memory hole the crap out of everything, and then they'll just sneak it in later when we're distracted.
Right.
But it's this perpetual insanity that we have to constantly battle. Especially here in California, it's just one insane thing after the next. Think about it. Just, what was it, a year ago? AB 2223.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about post-birth abortions up to, just crazy, crazy things. It's like, what is happening here in California? And I honestly think it's just people are just so beaten down with the cost of living that they have to work 2 jobs, and because of woke progressivism, that they can't have their own opinion and speak out because they'll get in cancel culture. They're terminated from their jobs. So to have the ability to discuss what's actually taking place and how they probably honestly feel, they can't speak up against it, and they're afraid to, because if they do, they'll lose their livelihood. They lose their ability to put a roof over their head or take care of their family or themselves. Mm-hmm. And so the system has devolved into finding a way to just keep people under such constant pressure and not have the ability to really execute on their freedom of speech and their ability to vocalize what they don't stand for. And then at the same time, they just get beaten down by the hyperinflated voter rolls and the ability for undocumented people to cast a ballot here in California.
Well, it's interesting that you say hyperinflated voter rolls because, as far as I'm aware, Shiloh Marks is trying to get all those cleared, and Republican registration is currently outpacing Democratic registration. I would think that that partially has to do with all the wildfires and crazy disasters that have happened as of late,
Yeah.
because a lot of the policies that people are seeing come down the pipe that have a negative impact on them. And I didn't even realize that Shiloh Marks is the son of Victor Marks, so he's doing a tremendous job in here in California, and that would partially explain it. He's been raised by some tremendous people.
Yeah, I mean, what I was referring to about the hyperinflate is that they're not purging the voter rolls, and we've done some cutbacks, but it wasn't like a total, because we still have places that are over 100%, voter registration, which is an issue.
Right.
And I mean, that's a pretty glaring issue. There's no way that could be a possibility. And then, I mean, just the fact that people are just not able to have their voices heard when you have issues like that with illegals casting ballots without the ability to check it.
Right.
Because it's illegal to ask for ID at the polls here in California.
Yeah, I heard about that. No voter ID. It's illegal to ask for voter ID. I mean, imagine you approve voter ID, but we're in the opposite direction. It's illegal to even have voter ID. Like, we could have just remained in that middle ground at least. I'll tell you what, I do think that Newsom might actually repeal that law.
Really?
To try to appeal to a bigger base, absolutely.
Well,
I think he will be doing some 180s in the years to come, doing things and pretend, I didn't do that. What are you talking about? I didn't do that.
I never did that. That's not me. No.
You must be talking about somebody else.
God, I can't stand him. He's such. The worst part is it's so obvious that he's planning on running for president. There's no question. There's no question he wants that top spot there on the Democrat ticket. I mean, the only other person I think that they could run is the governor of Pennsylvania, right?
Yeah, I mean Joshua Shapiro, or there's that other one. There's Wes Moore. There's also Andy Beshear, Kentucky. Wes Moore, I think, might be West Virginia, if I'm not mistaken. But they don't have the kind of profile and clout that Newsom has. You look at Josh Shapiro; he doesn't even have the kind of clout. I mean, who knows? I mean, do you think that as many people know about Josh Shapiro?
Well, I don't think it matters because, unfortunately, Democrats skew heavier in California. So, and they'll just hive mind into whoever the party anoints.
And who do you think that'll be?
Well, I mean, it's looking like Gavin Newsom wants that, but I'm just saying if it were to be someone like Shapiro, because then you could argue that Shapiro could lock in a more important or battleground state like Pennsylvania, which comes with 20 electoral votes.
I could see a Newsom Shapiro ticket. You could have Shapiro as VP.
Yeah.
And then Shapiro try to jump into that president spot after that.
Mm-hmm. It's all got potential. Look, Max, you're a wealth of knowledge. I'm so glad you came and joined us today. We've been having a blast. This hour goes by quick. Folks,
it does.
Make sure you follow him, Babyface Boomer, on IG, on TikTok, on X. Where else?
Just those three main platforms for now. YouTube, you could too. I do post there every now and then. So
just follow the kid. He knows what he's talking about. So thank you guys for tuning in. Max, thanks for being here. This has been America Matters, and we'll see y'all next time.
Absolutely.